Hello, friends, and welcome to Bible study. We're in the NIV in 1 Corinthians. And I have to shift things to see where my note is for which ones. Chapter 12, verses 1 through 26. Take very extensive notes and do my own set of Bible study before to prepare to record these videos. Okay, so we're going to go through two different sets of parables here. We will finish one completely, and then we'll move on to the next one. Again, this is written in about 50 AD when the Christian is still a fuzzy description. The church is just getting started out. They have just come to the place where they allow Gentiles to refer to themselves as Christian, because it was a club you had to be accepted into. There was a lot of argument about that. Jesus made his will known through Saint Peter, or the Apostle Peter, or whatever term you would like to refer to him as. I myself am not in a place where I believe any one person is more holy than another. So to me, saints just do this. They were a very good person, and without them, they died for the faith. That's why they're a saint. Their faith was exceptional. They are an example of good faith. It doesn't mean you should wholeheartedly just do everything or absorb everything that they had to say, because life and times change. And love one another is supposed to be the focus. And sometimes the stuff from the past doesn't have any love vibration in it. So you have to analyze it with a critical eye. And I find that there's a lot of people who have a problem with that is confusing for me. Because given the genetics that I have with the various people in history, when they were being very cruel, because some of them were just flat out cruel people. Listen, if you're from a race of people, and I don't care what race you are, because my DNA's literally been all over the world. I may look, if you're just looking at me on the surface, like that's just a white lady. You'd be very incorrect. I am a mixed race lady. There's a lot of different, I put my DNA in all those systems. It's not a question. I am most definitely, my DNA's been all over the world. And by nature of who I'm related to, it makes perfectly logical sense why and how that happened. But very publicly, they've been terrible. And if you are of a race of people who are of conquering nations, then there's not a question of whether or not you have terrible people that you're related to. In the process of the conquering, they weren't just pillaging. Think about what the terms were. If you are related to any of those people, you have any of that DNA in you, you are related to people who felt like they had the right to assault others. They had the right to conquer others. They had the right to have slaves. They had the right to do these terrible things. And that is a reality of the people you're related to. The good news is you can choose which of your ancestors you decide to emulate. But that doesn't mean you get to deny that you're related to any of those people, or that any oppression happened to them, because you just don't want to accept that reality that you could have the capacity for bad. Every human being on earth has the capacity for bad. Whether or not you do bad is your choice. So it's a beautiful thing that you don't have to ask your ancestors how you have to act now. You can just decide for yourself. He gives you free will. So it's beautiful. It's a gift. This chapter 12, verse 1, spiritual gifts, free will choice, is a spiritual gift. Now about spiritual gifts, brothers. I do not want you to be ignorant. You know that when you were pagans, somehow or other, you were influenced and led astray to mute idols. They don't have eyes to see or ears to hear. They're not the living God in a statue. The living God is living. He's not in any statue anywhere. Therefore, I tell you that no one who is speaking by the Spirit of God says, Jesus be cursed. How you gonna curse Jesus? I don't know who this fool is, but they're clearly a fool. Jesus absorbed every sin in existence before his death. He absorbed every bit of karma for every terrible person that ever existed in history. And I can tell you, this is some really terrible people. You need to just go back and reread history and listen to what they considered acceptable form of punishments and what rights you didn't have. Because if you were living under a king or an emperor or anything like that, you had as many rights as he decided you had, which is if he didn't even know you existed, you didn't have any rights, and anybody who was an official could do whatever they wanted to you, and you didn't have any advocates. That was the law, and it did switch just like that from one leader to the other. There wasn't consistency, none of that. Now, Jesus absorbed all the sins for all those terrible people everywhere in existence. Pray forgiven. I don't know what demon you think you can conjure that can curse this person that's going to make anybody difference, but he has dominion over every demon, including Satan. So, what? Okay, anyway. And no one can say Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Spirit. Okay? There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but the same God works all of them in all men. Now, to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. To no one, there is given through the Spirit the message, to one, there is given the Spirit of the message of wisdom. To another, the message of knowledge by the means of the same Spirit. To another, faith by the same Spirit. To another, gifts of healing by that one Spirit. To another, miraculous powers. To another, prophecy. To another, distinguishing between spirits. To another, speaking in different kinds of tongues. And to still another, the interpretation of tongues. All these are the work of the one and same Spirit, and he gives to each one just as he determines. So, the Holy Spirit decides who gets gifts. There are no gifts given by Satan. There are no gifts given by demons. There are they have no ability to do anything but trick people into thinking that they can do something for them that God hasn't already given them. They're shysters. They have no power. There is no God but the living God. So anybody roaming around shouting at somebody that they're a demon because they have this knowledge or they can do that thing or they use this tool or they use that tool or the one who's out of alignment in for heaven is the one who is shouting judgment at the other person. God gives all kinds of tools. How we use those tools is on the intention in the heart of the person using the tool. That's the way it works. They can't actually get abilities from demons. The demons don't have the abilities to give. It's not how it works. They can't generate their own energy. They can only steal energy from other people and reshuffle it around and redistribute it. And you're familiar with this if you want to try to argue. It's called taxes. The government collects the taxes from all the people everywhere, and then they start distributing it based upon what needs to run. We do not get any good ideas from ourselves. Humans are not that smart. They all come from somewhere else. The one body, many parts. Chapter 12, verse 12. The body is a unit. Truth. Though it is made up of many parts. Yeah, you have fingers, you have eyes, you have a nose, you have a brain, you have a spinal cord. These all do different things. Just like, your car and everything else. Because again, we don't get any good ideas on our own. Although its parts are many, they form one body. So it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, slave or free. And we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Now, the body is not made up of one part, but many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not be for that reason to cease to be part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not be for that reason to cease to be part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has arranged the parts of the body, in the body, every one of them, just where He wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you. And the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seemed to be weaker are indispensable. And the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty. While our presentable parts need no special treatment. But God has combined the members of the body and has given the greatest honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, then every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. If you're not feeling good, it doesn't matter which part of you doesn't feel good, all of you doesn't feel good. No human on earth has the right to tell another human on earth that they are unacceptable to God. That is not your call. That is you deciding for God what God should be, and so that's you being an ego and hubris, overstepping your place in the world. God did not make any one of us more holy or more capable of being more holy. None of us is the second coming. So let's just simmer it down. We're all very judgmental as a species. And it's not new. It's in there. It's been in the Old Testament. You can go back and reread it. God does love the underdog, and He does want everybody to be treated equally to each other. You're not supposed to want to feel superior to others at all. If you want to feel superior to others, then in here, something's broken. And that's not anybody else's fault. If you're a grown adult, go fix it. It might have originated from someplace. Great. Now, what are you going to do instead? Once you've figured out where it came from, what are you going to do instead? He doesn't need you to be perfect. He needs you to be committed. He needs you to be devout. That's what He needs. Because He needs you to, in your heart, want to only help other people. And that has to be where it comes from. If you're looking to scorn others, you're already in the wrong place. If you're sitting there arguing because, no, this version of the Bible is not edited with any, and every version of the Bible is edited with an intention. Every book on earth is edited with an intention because humans have intentions. In order to edit anything, you have to have an intention. Otherwise, what the heck are you even doing? How would you sit down and do the work without an intention? What work can you do without an intention? If you think there's one, please go put it down below. I would love to know. If you really think one version is not edited, and I get a lot of, and it's only in one particular version, I'm going to direct you again to this channel called The Ghost of Bacon. And they will tell you all about the person who edited that version of the Bible and the King James Version, so I'm not being mysterious. And they will tell you not only about his life, his cipher system, how he set up basically what we know as this, like for in America, as the CIA today. It's got different names in different countries. And then you can come back and tell me about intention. This guy literally invented coding. Both the computer codes for you to watch this on me right now, and the cipher systems like decoding, like your decoder ring that you used to get in your, jar of Ovaltine when you were back in the day, okay? So let's just simmer it down. Everything is done with an intention. We are not separate from each other. There is no version of Christianity that is superior to another. Every Christian is your friend. God needs it to reach everybody, and we're not all meant to be the same. We are meant to get our soul in alignment with heaven, which includes not judging others and not deciding we have the right to condemn or control or predetermine for them who they are to be. They can't tell you, you can't tell them. He said, love one another. An unconditional forgiveness. Now that doesn't mean keep them in your life and tolerate all their BS. That means get away from the people who want to treat you with disrespect because they're already out of alignment. But if they come back at you with true forgiveness, forgive them. Find a way to forgive them while they're away so that you can move on to a healing space. And then when they come back into your life, if they can come back in a respectful way, give them that forgiveness and let them show you that they're a better person. But don't be nasty to them in the meantime, because you're not supposed to want to be nasty to people. You're supposed to be looking for reasons to forgive them, not for reasons to scorn them. That's what it is to be a disciple. That's what he's asking you for. Just because they're different from you doesn't mean they're out of alignment with him. You got to get rid of that idea that they must all be like you for them to be in alignment with him. Because the truth is, no human has any say about who gets into heaven. And he has flat out said that if you believe Jesus is the Son of God, that he's the Messiah, he's the Son of God, he died, and on 3 days rose again in fulfillment with the scriptures. And they believe that. That's all they got to believe. They're Christians. However they're managing their journey, they believe that. That's enough for them to get into heaven. They're a Christian. He's already forgiven them. You can't, whether or not you forgive them is about you and your journey, not whether or not they get into heaven. That's between him and them. And you can't do anything about it, and you're not supposed to want to do anything about it. You're supposed to have your head down, focusing on your own journey.